Welcome to Secret Influence TV. Having the right skill set and mindset is essential for success in business. And on this channel, I interview people to share their powerful, inspiring stories or their expertise to help entrepreneurs grow their brand and build a business. Today, I'm talking to Robin Sundstrom about delivering clear, persuasive, and impactful pitches and presentations. Welcome, Robin.
Thank you very much for having me, Nick. It's very exciting being a part of this podcast.
Thank you, Robin. It's great to have you here. And my first question is just for you to say, how do you help people?
Well, I help people deliver impressive pitches and impress investors specifically. So it's all about being able to communicate your value effectively and showing up with confidence, being able to deliver with clarity, and basically converting investors and making them interested in what it is that you do.
Who's your ideal client?
I would say that the ideal client will be an early stage tech startup. So if you look at different types of companies, obviously everyone could do with effective communication skills. But I feel like when it comes to tech in particular, just because it is very technical and you have to explain it in a very easy to understand way, and in the early stages where you have more of a focus on the people behind the business, when you might not have traction, revenue, etc., it becomes even more important to be able to tell your story with confidence and explain clearly why there is value in what you do and why people should invest in you.
And talking about sharing stories and the why, what's your why? Why do you do what you do, and what's your story?
Oh, sure. So I have been, if you look at my recent background, so I'm based in London. And I was a founding team member, spokesperson, and the head of communications for a UK/France-based fintech startup. And throughout that process, I learned a lot about taking care of comms, having a solid core message, not just for investors and customers, but also for the team itself, so that everyone knows why we're doing what we're doing, and having an inspiring message for everyone on the team. So I have a lot of hands-on experience when it comes to that, just developing everything from inside a startup myself. I have also done a lot of speaking. So end of last year, I delivered a TEDx talk, for example. I have also competed in public speaking in the UK quite successfully, and I have also delivered a lot of pitches at global industry events. And I am also a vlogger and a big language enthusiast as well. So communication is always at the core of everything that I do and what I love. So yeah, I'm all comms.
Fantastic. And just to highlight one of those, you mentioned like the TEDx. How did that come about? What did you speak about in your TEDx talk?
So I spoke about vlogging just because I think it's such an effective tool for becoming a more effective communicator. And this is something I've been doing personally for the past, I would say, 4 years almost. And I also do it in multiple languages. So it's all about being able to pick up your phone, speak on a random topic for 1 minute every single day in order to learn how to basically hook an audience, deliver your message, and then conclude within a minute. And I found it myself to be a very, very effective tool to just stay in shape as a communicator and also improve the way that you speak. And you obviously have the benefit of being able to speak on video as well, which I think is quite an edge to have in today's society where everything is so social media based.
But just we'll come back to the vlogging, but why do you think, with sort of public speaking generally, why do you think people struggle so much or fear it?
Well, I think that we all have this fear of making a mistake or being embarrassed in front of people. And obviously, the more people you add to the mix, the more pressure you add to it as well. So I think that is a very big thing. I don't think that people in general are afraid of delivering the perfect pitch or delivering the perfect speech. They're afraid of making mistakes while they're on stage. So I think that's like a very innate thing in us as people. We're just afraid of making mistakes. And if you add more people, and also if you add higher stakes, for example, if you are pitching to investors, you know that the future of your company is riding on this pitch, then obviously you're going to add a lot more pressure because of that situation as well.
And how with yourself, how did you build your own skills in this area?
Just a lot of practice, a lot of practice. I have, like I said before, I have a lot of hands-on experience myself from within a startup, and I have also done a lot of speaking. So when I started out speaking myself, especially when I was competing a few years ago, I was speaking 5, maybe 6 times a week, sometimes going up, delivering improvised speeches, always making sure to go out and speak to the audiences afterwards as well, just because I think, feedback is at the core of everything. So you need the exposure to the thing that you're trying to learn. And then you need effective and honest feedback in order for you to be able to absorb that and then get back on stage or doing whatever skill you're trying to improve, and then trying it again to generate more feedback.
So feedback and then practice are obviously 2 key elements to improving.
Exactly. I would say, I've also tried my hands on a bunch of different stuff when it comes to speaking. So I would say that if you have public speaking, storytelling, it's more of telling a story in the most compelling way possible. And then pitching, it's more about, getting to the value that you are actually trying to communicate in the shortest amount of time possible, because you have to hook people straight away. Like, you don't have time to sort of tell a longer story. You have to get to what's important very quickly. And then you also have stand-up comedy, which I've tried as well before the pandemic. And that's obviously more of a back and forth in the moment with the audience. You really have to, sense what is going on in the room. You have to read the room constantly. And it really changes the way that you perform. And then you also have video as well, which is a bit different.
There's lots of important elements they've talked about. There's a hook, storytelling, and I guess creating rapport. And I guess you all these elements are important for whether you're speaking on stage or doing a pitch or even vlogging. I guess would you say those elements are core to all of those? Having an important hook, using storytelling, and creating rapport.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's I like to think of a pitch like a copywriter would think about copy. You need a clickbaity headline that is going to draw people in to actually want to listen to what's coming next. And if you have a very short pitch, let's say an elevator, you have 60 seconds, you have 90 seconds, get to what it is that would interest people. Because obviously, if you're pitching to investors, people tend to listen to a lot of pitches. And you really have to, get to what is important to them as quickly as possible. So, I like to think of it as a bit of like how a copywriter would see a pitch. So get to, you need something that's clickbaity, that's going to draw people in, then you communicate your value. And at the end, you would also want a call to action.
Do you think in your experience people tend to talk to feel we have to give too much information when the opposite is true, in that we, like you say, we need to get to the point quickly, and talk concisely? Would you say it's all like an automatic thing almost, that we feel we by talking more we give more information when actually, or value, when actually the opposite is true?
I think that happens a lot. And I also think that people tend to focus on explaining what it is that they do from a technical perspective. Let's say, for example, you have a product, you have a service, you have something very, very advanced that you have developed, and you obviously know, because you have been behind the scenes, you have developed this, you know how hard it is, and that is what you want to communicate. But obviously, the people who are sitting in front of you, they care about what the value is to them. So even if you have developed the most complex solution ever, they want to know about the benefit. And I think that is something that a lot of people tend to forget. They want to focus on how hard it was to get to the stage they're at, instead of just thinking, okay, who do I have in front of me? What is it that they actually care about? So obviously, if you have an investor in front of you, they want to know, well, what's the potential for this company? When are you going to make money? When will I see my money back? And then if you have a customer, what is the direct benefit to the customer that you have in front of you? They're not going to care about of the advanced stuff. It might sound nice, but in the end, they care about the benefits.
It's yeah, interesting. This comes back to I think the features and benefits, which is often what's talked about in copywriting. It's very natural, I think, for people when writing copy to talk about the features of what they offer and lose touch with actually the important thing is how will it benefit the intended audience, and how will it change their life. It's not what you do is kind of irrelevant in some ways. It's only what people are interested in. Well, how will that help me? So it's interesting here. It's what we do in copywriting is very much the same when we're actually presenting as well.
Exactly, and also being able to speak the language of the people that you're pitching to or that you're selling to. I think it's something that you get for free if you just go out and you speak to a lot of people who would be a part of your target market, and you listen to how they phrase their problems, what it is that they struggle with, what it is that they want a solution to. And it's I feel like they can always be there is always a way to improve the way that you speak with your customers by actually speaking to the customer and listening to how they express, their needs and their problems and what it is that they actually want.
And just to touch on sort of the rapport element, do you think it's important when you when you train people, or for them to try and know their audience, and I don't know if it's like research but if the more they know who they're pitching to, the better they can create rapport? Do you think that's important?
Yeah, definitely. I would say that the pitch would be a little bit different depending on where you go. Like if you go to, for example, a major industry event, you're in a pitch competition, you have an audience with a few hundred people, it's going to be very hard. Sure, you can have some sort of estimate depending on the industry, for example, and the event is going to have a theme, but in the end, you don't know exactly who is sitting in the audience, and it's going to be very hard to tailor a 3-minute pitch to everyone in that room. So I feel like then it becomes more of a like marketing yourself in order for those who are right for you to come to you after, so that you can actually book a meeting with them, you can sit down, and then you can explain to them. But then it becomes a more of a broader message, and trying to attract the people that you want to attract within that audience, because you're not going to be able to obviously say something that is unique or works for every single person.
And again, referring back to copywriting, which is my expertise, what I find is that a lot of the time people write copy, they lack a clear sort of call to action at the end. So, and without that call to action, then they're losing that opportunity. They might write some engaging copy, but if they don't have a clear call to action at the end, then people won't actually do something which is needed to take people to the next step. Is that something you find when people give presentations that's one element of the puzzle that's missing? That there isn't that, perhaps that clear. Is that important to have a clear call to action at the end? Where does that fit in?
Yeah, definitely, I would say so, because the thing that you're trying to do, as you're taking people through your story or through your pitch, the whole point is to grab their attention, communicate your value, and in the end, you want them to do something with the information that you have communicated. So yeah, a call to action is needed. And
talking about your approach to training, what's everyone has their own, I guess, approach to how they train their clients. And what's your approach? In your business, what's your approach to training your clients?
Well, it's trial by fire, because I feel like that's the most effective way, and that's something that I really wanted when I was in that position and I was the spokesperson. You want to make sure that the training you're receiving puts you in a state where you are prepared for anything that might come, and it also gives you the sense of confidence that that you can handle it, which I also believe helps a lot when you're actually going in there and delivering the message, because there is no such thing as being too prepared when showing up, and people can always tell if you have someone who shows up and they know exactly what it is that they're talking about, they know what the value is, and they are prepared for every single question. So that's a big part of impressing investors. just being able to communicate that you have thought of every single thing. And yeah, you might have it in a document somewhere that you have thought of everything, but just being able to do it when you're in that moment with people, I think that it builds a lot of confidence. So my approach, it's all about that. It's a trial by fire. It's about stress testing your ideas. So it's sort of like media training is built into it. I ask you all the hard questions that you would get from investors in the future so that you can prepare. And then we focus on the defining the message. I feel like that's something natural, that you do in the beginning. So I split up my training in 3 different core parts. So the first part would be defining. So it's all about asking you all the hard questions to figure out what it is that you're exactly doing to build like a very strong foundation and a core message. And the next step is delivering it. So that's more presentation training, just being able to deliver what it is that you're doing. And then you have defending it, which is media training basically. So you have the Q&As that you're going to be in with investors. You might do it on stage, you might do it in a boardroom, but I feel like those are the 3 critical and necessary steps that you have to master if you're a founder and you're looking to raise funds.
Yeah, that certainly that makes sense. I think the more we can practice in a real or lifelike situation, the more we'll be prepared. Talking about blogging, which you mentioned earlier, how different do you think is speaking, how in style, speaking cameras and speaking in person?
I would say that when you speak on camera, you have to be more entertaining. You have to be punchier in the way that you speak. You probably need some more vocal variety. And it's all about, you have to think about the fact that if you're speaking on stage, you can take a pause, for example, and that adds a lot to the atmosphere. You can read the room in a different way. And people are hopefully not going to walk out if they're bored for 2 seconds. But if you have a video, it's so easy for people to just like swipe to the next video, go to the next thing, go do something else. So I feel like it has to be a lot punchier. It has to go a lot faster. And that's also why if you look at, for example, YouTubers, they do a lot of jump cuts. They cut out everything that is not, in your face that would make you want to continue watching.
So you talked about sort of pausing there and speeding things up through jump cuts and that pace, and it's quite interesting because I watched I've been watching Hell's Kitchen and watching Gordon Ramsay, and I think he's obviously had some I think training over the years in public speaking and perhaps presentation on camera, and he uses pauses very well, I think, in adding dramatic effect, but he uses it a lot, and would you say that that's one of the strongest tools you can use, just that simple pause and perhaps variety or pace, how fast you speak and the pause you use? Is that one of the key things? Because it certainly seems to be something people perhaps don't use enough.
I would say on stage, for sure. Most people would probably do better if they added some more pauses so that the audience can actually think, because of the nerves and the stress and the pressure that a lot of people feel on stage, I feel like they talk as if they would have been on video. They want to get everything out as quickly as possible so that they can get off the stage. But when you're on stage, you want to own the stage and you want to make the most of it. So adding a pause could be a longer pause. It could actually add a lot of value and just it adds to the mood and to the atmosphere, and it could really help you when you're making a point. But yeah, if you do it on video, if you would do like a 5-second pause in a video, I feel like very few people would have the patience to actually sit. They would think something is wrong and they would move on to another video.
Of course. Talking about video content, how important do you think it is for businesses who use video content to engage their audiences? Because I think video content is increasing, and it's an important way to engage, but still a lot of businesses just don't use it. So how important do you think it is for business to look to use video content in their perhaps their marketing to engage the audiences?
Oh, I think it's very important, especially when it comes to, now lately you have all of these different tools these ChatGPT, these AI tools, which are helping people to create very high quality, both text and visual content. And then, okay, what is your edge going to be then if you struggle to, for example, produce a lot of high quality written content? Well, you can just make it personal. I mean, it becomes a superpower. People want to know. People want to hear from people. They want to get to know the people who are in the companies that they are buying products and services from. So I think it's an edge. People like that when it's authentic and when it's behind the stage and maybe not too produced. Let's say I remember I used to do a lot of these behind the scenes vlogs in the previous company I was in, and people really appreciated it just because they could see what is actually going on within the company. And yeah, people like hearing from people. People like seeing people. So I think definitely it's a very powerful tool. And now, when we all have our smartphones in our pockets, it's so easy to create very engaging content as well, just by picking up your phone and recording what it is that you're doing, or if you have something new that's going on within your business.
And you mentioned GPT, which is obviously the big talk at the moment. I mean, how have you had to adapt to sort of technology? So, the way we record and share video content and the tools available now, artificial intelligence, ChatGPT come along. Have you found with what you do, you've had to, keep a pace of this, incorporate these tools, and keep up to date and adapt your approach with what you do?
I would say that I have experimented with a few different AI tools, but when it comes to the thing that I really focus on, which is the people aspect, mostly when it comes to delivering something, I feel like it's so people heavy that it's hard to actually find an AI tool that would be efficient for me or effective for me to use right now. But obviously, I keep track of what it is that's currently going on in the world of these tools. I'm very interested in development of AI in general and this type of technology, but it's not something that I have actively incorporated in the things that I do myself.
I think it's definitely early days for a lot of this, and I find a lot of people say to me, do I, as a copywriter, do I feel sort of threatened by ChatGPT or things like that? And for myself, I often say, well, it's at the moment it's a tool, and like any tools that come along, if you can look how you can use it to help you fit in with helping you what you deliver, then it has a value there. But it's early days. It's interesting to see, I think, how it will develop. The next question is, I guess people want to learn as quickly as they can, and people want to get to their end goal without long periods of learning. How do you accelerate people's learning when you work with them, when you train them? How is there an approach you have to progressing people's skills in a shorter space of time, but you can?
Yeah, it's all about the feedback loop.
Okay.
And that's also something that I focus on when it comes to my method. It's all about having that exposure to the thing that you're going to do, and then receiving the most honest feedback, so that you have something that you can absorb and then improve as quickly as possible. So this is also something that comes with, for example, vlogging, that you're able to record a video, you see exactly what you're saying, how you're saying it, what you look like when you're saying it, and then you're able to take that in, and then you can record another video right after, and then you can improve that way. So it's video, it gives you the visuals, but I am there as the expert to actually tell you what it is that you're doing, what you can improve straight away. And then if you have the opportunity to basically throw yourself into it straight away again and answer questions, deliver the pitch, what have you, that's related to what it is that you want to improve, it's going to progress, or it's going to increase the progress that you're making, just because you have that very, very intense feedback loop. And the thing that I want to do is just like to give you the most effective and the most valuable feedback for you to be able to absorb that and try again and just continue that process.
And just on the points you made about recording video content on a phone. I think some people might think, oh, I need a lot of expensive equipment to record video content. Need a studio set up or expensive microphones, cameras. Would is it possible to record it in a phone? If someone's starting out, do they need lots of expensive equipment? And what's your...
No. Do it with the phone. Do it with the phone. It's that's how I started out. I've done stuff in studios as well, but it's definitely not needed. It's not required. I feel like it's probably one of those excuses that keep us from taking the very first step, because obviously that's also one thing that can be very, very nerve-wracking. It's a bit like being on stage when you record yourself on video and then you post it for other people to see. I remember I had the same feeling myself the first time I posted something, that okay, now everyone are going to be able to see me as I am talking here on video, and you have this imposter syndrome and who's going to listen to what I have to say. But you have to be able to take that very first step. Like, it's going to be a very nervous moment for a lot of people, but once you're past that, you realize how much feedback you're getting. And then if you also have an archive of a bunch of different videos that you have done every single day, you'll be able to look back at that, and you will have, your development, you will have your progress, and you can see that you're actually getting better over time.
And my next question is, why do you love what you do? I mean, I hope you do love what you do, but why do you do what you do? What's your passion about it? What do you love? Why do you love it?
A bunch of different reasons, actually, but I think the main one is the power of language. I think it's just so fascinating that, if you have someone who is very good at communicating an idea, communicating their value, then it makes all the difference when you're actually trying to achieve results, you're trying to inspire people. It's just look at all the great leaders, all the great salespeople. Everything in life is a pitch. So if you're good at pitching what it is that you do, and you're very good at persuading people, it's a real superpower. So that could be also speaking on video, speaking on stage. It's the same thing, or writing, copywriting as well. It's the same thing. So I think it's very, very fascinating, just working with language and just seeing how you can persuade people, how you can find the best words, because there is always like a formula. So discovering the best formula is very exciting. And when it comes to pitching as well, I think it's exciting just because it is high stakes. It's there's a lot on the line, which just increases the pressure for you to be able to pick the absolute best words when you have 60 seconds, 90 seconds to communicate your ideas or your values. So that's what I think is very exciting.
That's great to hear. I like that. So discover your superpower. I think there's definitely that correlation between copywriting and speaking. And the words we use obviously do matter. And I often, with my copywriting, I think one of the most basic things I start with is saying less is more, and being concise. And every word matters, and you have to choose your words carefully. And it's interesting about that sort of psychology element of, we want to, whether it's speaking, personal, writing, we want to understand who audience is, and essentially how can we get a desired effect and get them to do something. So we want them to have a reaction. We want, when we speak to them on the stage, or I think we write to them, we want to them to change their state and feel excited and engaged when they hear us or read our content, and then react in a certain way, feel a certain way, and then obviously take a certain action. But I think there's definitely that correlation. It's interesting for you to say that as well.
Yeah, I think it's a life-changing skill if you learn it, because like I said, everything in life is a pitch. So it doesn't, I brought this up as well in my TEDx talk, where I was talking about the fact that you have these defining moments in your life where the things that you say can completely change your trajectory. So it could be, you going for a job interview, or interviewing for a university, or even speaking to someone, asking them out for a date. Just being able to communicate well in that moment can completely change the trajectory of your life. So it's one of the most important things that you could learn. So it's very exciting working with people, and also figuring out the fastest or most effective way of actually acquiring this superpower.
That links to what I often sort of talk about, how communicating clearly and powerfully, but also being able to influence others, is an essential skill for everyone in life, and certainly to be successful. But when I say success, I mean if you want to get a job, you've got to be able to influence the audience and your interviewers to get the job, and get a promotion, or in your business, you've got to be able to influence people to listen to you and engage with you and buy a product and service, essentially, to have a business. And even relationships, if you can't communicate clearly and powerfully and confidently, and if you can't influence the person in relationship positively, then the relationship won't go as you wanted to go. So I think it's interesting that you say those things, that they're skills for life, as you said, because communicating clearly and powerfully and being able to establish rapport and engage, but also influencing your audiences, I think the skill to anyone, in business, but just I think socially and in relationships as well. So I think it's interesting for you to say that as well.
Yeah, if you think about it, like every single person that you meet in your life could just open up so many doors, and it's all about being able to create that connection with a person. And that's also where my fascination for foreign languages also comes from. That the more languages you speak, the more of a hub you become, and the more people you can connect with. So I think it's very cool having seen that. Just because I didn't grow up as a native English speaker, I grew up speaking Swedish, and then I learned English and a few languages after that. And it's very cool just seeing the transition that you actually go through, the people that you meet, and the situations you end up in, just because you have another language that you can actually use, and you can be a part of so many different worlds.
Yes, it's interesting to hear you say that, to have come from not a native speaker to learning English and then using and then teaching children, or sharing or teaching other people how to be confident speakers in English. So that's come to the end of our sort of interview. But to finish off, can you share some 3 tips for how to deliver a persuasive pitch?
Sure. I have a few tips, but if I think about the most common ones, or the things that I see that people really should be working on first, it would be to think about the person that you actually have in front of you. What is it that they actually care about? Focus less on, what it is that you do, or the things that you might be proud of, and just think about, okay, what is it that they really want to know? What would be of the most value to them? Because in the end, if you're pitching, you're trying to convince them of something. So, okay, how do I convince this person who's sitting in front of me? And I would also say to make it easy to understand, just focus on just being understood. Like you don't want to lose people in the audience just because you were using very complicated words, or you tried to make it sound complex and technical just because you know that the actual solution is, but focus on being understood, because you want to be able to reach as many people as possible when you're communicating your message. And I would also say, when it comes to the confidence aspect, don't underestimate showing up at a meeting and just being really, really prepared. I feel that is something a lot of people might forget or just overlook. They focus on maybe designing a very nice pitch deck. They have the numbers down, but they are not 100% when it comes to the actual delivery. And if you're sitting in front of investors, they, especially in the early stages, if you have an early stage startup, they're going to look at you. They're going to look at your commitment. They're going to look at your conviction and confidence and your ability to be able to go through with this, to turn this into a successful venture, a successful business. So showing up really, really, there's no such thing as over prepared, but prepare so that you can walk in there with confidence because it's not just about the things that you are saying, the words that you're using, but also the way that you're saying it. And people are going to judge you a lot on that.
I love it. Three great tips there. I think anyone can relate to. So be prepared, having a confidence in yourself, keep things simple, not overcomplicating them. And I think that you've very much in this interview exemplified what you talked about, and you clearly know what you talk about, and you're very passionate for the subject. So, thank you for your time today, Robin. I really appreciate it, and you've given packed with lots of great tips and lots of value in what you're saying. So that's another interview for Significance TV. Got lots more lined up. Do subscribe to be notified of upcoming interviews with other people who have a powerful story to share, or tips of expertise to help you become a better communicator, being able to influence and inspire your audience. So thank you, Robin, for your time. And
thank you. Yes, thank you very much for having me.
Speak again soon. Just before you go, though, if people did want to reach out to you, what's the best way to get in contact?
LinkedIn. LinkedIn is probably the easiest way. Yes.
Okay, I'll share your link with the video.
That would be great.
But thank you for your time.